gonna talk to you about my journey, as Stefania introduced, my journey with social identity threat. So my name is Carine. I work in the software development field. I started out as a developer, and over the last 15 years, I had the opportunity to work for different companies and take on different roles, the most recent being as a software development manager. And recently, this year, I also opened a new track in my career portfolio as an independent IT consultant. So when I'm not into software development, I'm also an artist, and my illustrations are mostly inspired by women's beauty, fashion, and nature. I hope you were able to recognize Dr. Fei Li. This is a portrait illustration I did of her, a woman that I admire. Today we are talking a lot about like AI, and she is the one who introduced the idea of using large-scale data set that most AI tools today are using. So I just want to know who are familiar with the concept of social identity threat? No? Whew, I feel useful today. Okay. So social identity threat can be explained as an anxiety that people feel when they are in context where their social group is underrepresented, devalued, or negatively stereotyped. And speaking about being underrepresented and negatively stereotyped, we know that this is the reality of women in STEM fields. Those are the statistics, the last statistics of Canada, but I know this is like the reality in most countries over the world. And speaking about those statistics, a living example of them. Like during the last 15 years, I have found myself more than once being the only woman in a team of 10-ish developers. And at one time, I was even the only woman on a floor of 50-ish employees. I have to say that was particular. So we work in a context where there is a male dominance. And male dominance not just in numbers, but there is also a normative male dominance. Men are perceived to be better than women in STEM field. So my journey with social identity threat. I have to say that at uni, even though most of the time I was the only woman in class, or I think the max we have ever been in class were just like maybe 3 women in class of 15, I never felt this anxiety of being a minority in class. I cannot explain it, but it started when I entered the workforce. I was okay at school. So I guess maybe there is, when you are, as a junior, when you are starting your career, you want to establish credibility, you want to excel in your career. So maybe this additional pressure played something in this anxiety. But the reality is also that I was receiving some message, some signal of non-acceptance, and they are subtle. And this is something that I really want to highlight when we talk about social identity threat. It's not about, big things like, sexual harassment, like open conflict. It's not that. It's just those like subtle things that triggers social identity threat. For me, there are so many examples, but I do remember that one time there's like a colleague. She was not part of the tech team. She was having some issues with her computer, and I offered to help. Her reaction was, "Are you sure? Korean men are better with these things. Maybe I can ask X," so she mentioned someone else who happened to be one of my colleagues, a man developer. And I was like, okay, fine. And there is those other instances where I was the lead developer on a project, but I can see that the client it was really difficult to work with him. Every time that I would suggest a solution, like something, I can see that he is serving the conference room, waiting for someone else to chime in and to kind of like approve my solution. And it happened like more than once. So I shared my experience with my colleague. Some of them were like, yes, we had similar experience. This is how he is. But interestingly, there are other colleagues who were like, oh, he's so nice. What are you talking about? He's nice. He's so cool to work with. Like, we love when like we are assigned to his project. I was like, okay. So we started to see a pattern. Colleagues that had a negative experience with this client were women. We were three women developers at that time. And those who were saying how it is nice and cool were all men. And I have to say, the only thing that I had in common with those colleagues were we were women. We were not the same race. We were not the same age. So we all agreed that definitely this person is not comfortable with working with women developers. He was kind of like questioning our abilities to deliver quality software solutions. So there are like a lot of experience like those that started to trigger this kind of anxiety. And it's not just that. It's not just in work context. It was also in social context. You know, when I was like introducing myself in a social event or gathering, the question that I would get the most, I mean, like we know like in a social gathering, we always like introduce ourselves by name, and most of the time the next question is, oh, what do you do for a living? Where do you work? I'll say, okay, software development, I'm a developer, and I would see the expression, like the reaction would be like, really? You are a developer? You don't look like a developer. Like, okay, what do I look like? So most of the time I would get those reactions. I would get people saying, oh, you look like someone who would be working they would give me a list of things, the list of fields that are not tech, that are not in STEM. So over time, those things, when they happen once, you brush them off and you go on living with your life. But it started to be triggering when you continue to get them over and over again. So again, the cocktail of this, with me being like new into my career, wanting to make it into my career, this started to trigger this like social identity threat in me. And I started to feel anxious at work. I was working more like with like men developers. And I was like, I have to be good like them. I have to build my credibility. I don't want to have like client questioning my ability to deliver them quality software solutions. What can I do about it? And I started to feel and to think like, I don't look like a developer. I have to look like a developer. I have to be able to enter a room and make people feel like, yes, okay, she knows what she's doing, And also the other thing is that, I introduced myself as an artist. My other interest, apart from software development, is art and fashion. I really love fashion. So the other thing that was happening in social event and gathering when I was like attending fashion like gathering or events, I would get more like, oh, you are into software development. It's for people it was kind of like conflicting. So I started to feel like at work I shouldn't be talking about fashion. I shouldn't be talking about art. I shouldn't be talking about all those things that are too feminine because apparently things that are too feminine are a sign that you are not good at software development. So I developed a strategy, on how to manage my social identity threat. Here managing is caught because it was managing me, not the other way around. But I felt to myself, I need to come up with a strategy. So I started to conceal everything. I would look at myself in the morning in the mirror and it would be like, okay, what can I remove? This is looking way too feminine. I was what you could call a girly girl. I loved my high heels, colorful accessories, colorful outfits, like makeup, I don't know, the whole kit. So I remember that time I decided that high heels, who needs high heels? I can do ballerina. Ballerina are good. They are comfortable. They are good. So I ditched my high heels. I ditched my colorful accessories. And I remember actually, I didn't pay attention to that, but I remember my mom noticing this and feeling like, I remember she specifically told me, Carine, just because you mostly work with men doesn't mean that you have to look like men. I was like, Mom, that's not what I'm trying to do. No, what are you talking about? No, just that I changed my style, okay? I'm updating my style. Nothing to do with wanting to look like men. But that's what I was doing. So makeup, I mastered the art of doing the no makeup look because I didn't want to look too feminine at work. Art, fashion, I completely disconnected. As long as I can remember, I have always been drawing, doodling things from kindergarten, like high school. Every time I was like doodling, drawing something. But there's a period of my life, this period, I didn't even draw like a matchstick man. I just cut out of my life art. Fashion show, I was like, no, this is conflicting with my career as a software developer. I have to get this out of my life, and I removed those things from my life. It kind of worked for me for a certain period of time until it was not working. And I have to say that during that time, I was working full-time. I was completing my master's in software engineering part-time, so it was a stressful time. But adding to that, this anxiety, at some point I felt like it was too much. I couldn't go on. I kept feeling like, you know what, I want to get as far as possible from this. I want to unplug. So, and I just did that. Upon completing my degree, I handed my notice at work. I took a gap year. I traveled around the world. And during that year, I didn't want anything to do with tech, with software development, like nothing. I was like, I just want to relax and just do nothing. And I reconnected with art during that time. I started drawing again. I did like a lot of like introspection. And I had some very interesting insight. I started to feel like it doesn't make sense. why would fashion and art be conflicting with software development? It doesn't make sense. There is no logical explanation to that. And I remembered that the thing that made me fall in love with software development for like the first time was the creative concept behind that. You know, the process of taking some abstract concept and translate them into logical requirement, algorithm, and come up at the end with a tangible software solution that people can see and use. That was the thing for me. And I was like, cutting out art actually is just cutting out this source of inspiration that is helping me be a better developer that I can be by coming up with creative solutions for clients. It's like, no, I started to feel like I need art if I want to be the best version of me I can be in software development. This is like in harmony, it's not conflicting. And for fashion, I have like an eye for aesthetic, and this is what I bring to work in software development. I'm not like a UI or UX expert, but I really love to contribute when we are having like a project. I love to contribute to this aspect of software development. I love to bring my insight in terms of like aesthetics. And I feel like this is the part of me that also love fashion. So I was like, these like messages I've been having, they don't make sense. What makes sense for me is that fashion, art, software development, they're all in perfect like harmony. They have like synergy. And I also started to feel like our message like of non-acceptance I've been having. Most of the time we're coming from people who don't even know me, who have no idea of my abilities. But I remembered that my colleague, people who know what I can do, actually never made those kind of comments or gave me those like messages. So the conclusion was, those are just stereotypes. They have nothing to do with my abilities, with me being in software development, with me being someone who can be really great into this field. So I came out of this like gap year, okay, not a new person, that would be too much, but a new version of myself. A new version that was able to walk in a room with my high heels, with my accessories, and feel like, yep, this is actually what a software developer look like in 21st century. Get along with it. Update the image you have. And I'm just curious, we have a lot of women here who know this thing of, you don't look like a developer, yeah? Yeah, thank you. I know we have this a lot, but it's just stereotype. But at some point in my life, I truly believed that it has something to do with me. I thought that it was me who needed fixing. I was like, okay, maybe I missed something here. Maybe being a developer, it's not just, I don't know, having expertise in software development. Apparently, there's like something else that I did miss. Honestly, it took me years to realize that, no, those are just stereotypes, nothing to do with me, and I don't have to do anything about myself to fit it, to make just people with stereotype comfortable. That's not going to work. So today, this is what is in my toolkit, and that I wanted to offer any one of you who maybe is struggling with this, because it might help. I am still being triggered because like working in a male-dominated industry, I would be lying if I was saying that, oh, like, those like social like message of non-acceptance, they're nothing. They mean nothing for me. I can brush it off. It's not that. It's not that. I am still being triggered. But what I'm no longer doing is acting on that, is spending my energy trying to fit that message, that narrative of what a developer look like, what a developer or someone in software development, what they like, what they look like, what are their interests. Nobody has to define this for me. So I'm triggered, but I'm able to, take a step back, deep breath, and feel like, okay, Carine, nothing to do with you, nothing to do with you. You don't have to act on this. And I also made a pledge when I was like in my gap year to remember who I am. Like now art is part of my life, fashion is part of my life, and I can publicly own it. Showing you my art today was like a big step. There is like a period of my life, it's not shame per se, it's not shame. I was going to say that I was ashamed, it's not shame, but I was uncomfortable in a room full of expert in tech like yourself to own that I am a fashion lover. I spend time watching fashion shows. I can tell you what was the collection of Dior, what was about the last collection. I'm interested in this. And I was not able to own that I'm an artist because the fear of not being perceived as an expert in software development was there, because the message that I was getting was that a real geek, a real expert in software development shouldn't be interested in those things. But today I'm just saying, they are part of me, and actually they are part of the things that help me bring a unique or different perspective at the table in software development. And I highly encourage you and invite you to embrace all of your identities, because that's what you bring to the table. That is you are unique, that's perspective, that's what makes you special. I work with a lot of developers, and I always find it interesting to see how they approach differently their career, or how the software development process. I have some friends who are software developers who are more interested in programming languages. They just want to learn as many as possible programming languages. It's their thing, it's their passion, and this is the expertise. I know when I need someone we are thinking about writing an application, that will be my go-to person. But I know those persons are not even remotely interested in knowing what is the requirement, what are the client needs, what is the added value in what we are doing. They're not interested, it's not their things. But we bring different things at the table in our field. But what makes us able to do this is all those different identities, all those aspects of us. And today I'm so happy, so excited, and so thankful, so being blessed that 2015 I hit that wall that forced me to really stop, unplug for a year, and rethink my life and my place in software development as a woman. We are constantly being told that we're not good as men, but we are. So, and also the reason why I wanted to talk about social identity threat today is because there's like a really high cost. Mine was mental exhaustion, stress, burnout, but there is also studies linking social identity threat with women leaving STEM fields at a high rate. And this is something that was also mentioned this very morning. And I'm feeling like, we are working on having more women in STEM. We are encouraging young women to enter STEM. But what are we really doing if we are not supporting women who are already in STEM, who are living at a high rate? We have to work on that. And there's like a lot of things that we can do. Most of them, I was going to say unfortunately, but most of them are on system level. Things that I feel like as an individual, as a person, that I have less power on. But there are like a few things that we can do today, each of us, and this is like raising awareness. Just talking about it. I remember when I came about those like research talking about social identity threat in women in STEM, my first reaction was, oh my God, so this is what I was going through? It has a name, and I'm not the only one? I was like, did I miss the memo somewhere? I wanted to scream. I was like, how come nobody told me about this? Because for years, I thought it was me who needed fixing. I thought that it was me who maybe doesn't have what it takes to be a woman in tech. But knowing that it is like a known thing for women in tech, I felt relief because I felt like, oh, I'm not alone in this. There are other women going through this. And okay, so I don't need fixing. And this is like something that I wanted to go back in time and tell like younger me, saying no, what are you feeling is kind of normal. Working in male context as a minority, and a minority that is negatively stereotyped, it's kind of like normal to have those anxiety. It's not you, it's the system. It's not you. You are okay. You don't need fixing. So that's the message that I would like to give like all young women who are entering STEM field today. And I wish them not to, but if they feel they maybe found themselves in context where they are being triggered by those things, I want them to know that they don't need fixing. There's nothing to do to fix on them. It's the system. There are like ways of working around this. Take a deep breath and be able to say what this person is saying. It is just showing me that it is someone who have stereotypes. It's not me. It's this person who needs to be educated, not me who needs to be fixed to fit this narrative. And yeah, so it's also the other thing that helped me really having the name, because for like a long time I have been trying to explain my friends who are not in STEM what I was like feeling, but they couldn't get it. And I was having this conversation with one of the women here who was also telling me that she doesn't know how to react. When people tell you, oh, you don't look like a developer, sometimes it is said as if it was a compliment. I'm just like, no, it's not. And for people who are not in STEM, it can be like a little bit hard to understand. My sister kept telling me, I don't know why you get triggered by that. It's not necessarily like a bad thing. I'm just, no, you don't understand. So by raising awareness, it's also big to have like the terminology to give for people who are not in STEM what it means for us. Because people saying, oh, you don't look like a developer, they are also implicitly questioning your ability as a professional. That's what it says. And if you want to have like more information, do more research, and continue like having more further details on social identity threat in women in STEM, I highly recommend those research one by Ruth Bell Carine and the other one by William, Tony, Audrey, and Elizabeth. They have been conducted in 2019. And personally, when I was reading them, it was like a revelation for me. I was like, yes, yes, yes. Everything that I was reading, I was like, yes, thank you. That's my experience. That's my reality. So they're really insightful if you have time to do some readings. So that was for me today. I hope that my experience has been of help for you, and I encourage you to talk about it with your friends. Even those who are not in STEM, talk about it. Raise awareness. It can help people around you. Thank you for your time.